My brothers and sisters in reality, you do not need to climb mountains before you can reconnect to your own realities called Odinala. Going back to your root or reconnecting to Odinala is as simple as ABCD on an active scale, not on a passive scale. So you have to be active to reconnect to your own realities called Odinala. And how do you do that? You reconnect to Odinala, your own realities called Odinala, through a conscious and unconscious meditation and incessant egofo, that is regular egofo, with the necessary essential materials, those natural materials that are endowed with powers. Naturally endowed materials are used in this egofo, which also includes egomwo, invocations of powers, invocations of universally ancestral values and powers. That is egomwo, which is included in this egofo. So you don't need to trouble so much. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do so many things that have been flaunted on social media as ways of reconnecting to your own reality called Odinala. Why must you suffer so much to reconnect to your own reality called Odinala? Why must you pay so much to reconnect to your own reality called Odinala? You don't need to settle this. You don't need to settle that in order to reconnect to your own reality called Odinala. You don't need to pay any tithe. You don't need to pay any task. You don't need to sow any seed to any pastor, religious leader, reverend father, reverend sister, daddy GO, clergies, or any spiritualist to reconnect to your own realities called Odinala. Why must you pay money? Why must you suffer? Why must it be an uphill task for somebody to reconnect to his or her own reality called Odinala? Going back to your roots is not someone else's reality, but your own reality. So why must you suffer to reconnect to that your own reality? Why must you pay much to reconnect to that reality called Odinala, which you are part of? My brothers and sisters in reality, you have been deceived by a lot of people, parading themselves as spiritualists, parading themselves as Ezewan and Ezewoken, parading themselves as reverend fathers and reverend sisters in the guise of reconnecting you to your Almighty God. If there is any Almighty God, it is that Almighty God which you are part of. And that is your own ancestrality and your own originality called nature. In other words, called Odinala. That Odinala you want to reconnect, you don't need to suffer so much in order to achieve it. You don't need to suffer so much before you reach your promised land. It is something that you do by yourself and for yourself. Odinala is a universally personal thing and not a universally public thing. Odinala is your personal relationship with your own realities called Odinala. Is your personal relationship with your own ancestrality, with your own originality, with your own realities called Odinala. Odinala is not a personal relationship with religiosities. It's not your personal relationship with any spiritualities. Religiosities and spiritualities are products of realities which you are. So how can you be dependent? How can you be a slave to something that is, to some things that are created of you by some people who claim, who parade themselves as assistant Jesus, as Almighty God, as assistant Allah, as Almighty Allah? How can you be dependent on something that we are created of you? You are superior to your spiritualities. You are superior to your religiosities. So stop being a slave to some things that you're supposed to be a master over. You are a master over them. You, the reality, is a master of religiosities and spiritualities. So stop being caged by religiosities and spiritualities and start being the master of all these constructs of mass mental slavery. Get yourself free today, and it shall be well with you. It is your nature, not somebody else's nature. It is your Odinala, not anyone else's nature, not another person's nature, but your nature, Odinala. Reconnect your own nature, paying no humongous amount of money. You don't need to suffer in order to reconnect to your father, in order to reconnect to your ancestrality, in order to reconnect to your originality. You don't need to pay tithes. You don't need to pay task to reconnect to yourself, to reconnect to your own entity. You may need guidance of some people, but you do not need them in mediation. You don't need mediation when reconnecting, when realigning with your own realities called Odinala. You may need guidance of Odinala inclined people, but you do not need them to realign with your realities called Odinala. You don't need them to realign with that reality called Odinala. Yes, they are Odinala inclined, but they are not wonderfully necessary in your realignment. Because the alignment is a personal thing, is a universally personal thing, and not a universally public thing. You do it yourself. It is a do-it-yourself affair and not a do-it-for-you affair. So you have to reconnect and realign with your universally ancestral powers and values. You have to consciously and actively realign with your universally ancestral values and powers in order to excel in this world. Without reconnecting to your nature called Odinala, my brother, my sister, you are living in vain. You are just wasting your time. You are just wasting your precious time. You are just wasting your life. So you have to reconnect. You must reconnect to make a living. Otherwise, if you don't reconnect, people will be making money off you. Why I encourage you to know your chi is because when you know your chi, when you know your chi, you won't know any spiritualist. You won't need any spiritual guide. Onye machi ya na ha amadibe. Ịmara dibe, ndụ gị ga-etokwa ogologo mana ego aga afọ gị n'akpa. So that is why it's wonderfully necessary to connect to your nature so that you will practice your own nature, your own Odinala, in your own natural way to excel. You can't excel being a second version of another person. The moment you reconnect to your nature called Odinala by yourself, and wasting no or paying no humongous amount of money, that's when the best version of you will emerge, will start shining. That darkness which you are, because you are that darkness. Darkness is that reality from where light emerges. Light can never emerge without darkness. Light comes from darkness. Light can never come from light. Light only comes from darkness. Without darkness, you won't notice light. So you are that reality. Stop being deceived. That's one of the dangers of reconnecting to your realities through pastors, through religious leaders, through reverend fathers and reverend sisters, through Ezenwanyis and Ezenwokens, parading themselves as custodians of Omenala and Odinala. Yes, they may be custodians of Omenala, but they are not custodians of Odinala, because Odinala is a universally personal thing and not a universally public thing. It is personal to you. If you reconnect to your nature, your Odinala, it's through pastors, through religious leaders, through reverend fathers and reverend sisters, through Ezenwanyis and Ezenwokens. No, you did not reconnect to your Odinala. You only reconnected to Omenala, which is only an antecedent to religion, and you are still being enslaved. You are still in that mental slavery because what you are still practicing is religious like Omenala, not even Omenala. So one of the dangers of reconnecting to your Omenala, not even Odinala, through pastors, religious leaders, Ezenwanya and Ezenwoke parading themselves, doing what religion does, is they will make you believe that darkness is evil. No, darkness is not evil because you are darkness, that reality from where light emerges. Without you, that darkness, light will not emerge. The light in you will never shine. Without darkness, light cannot shine. Stop being deceived. And there is no evil in Odinala. There is no good or bad in Odinala. What you have, although that one is another, I don't want to go into that. So reconnect. You don't have to pay much. You don't have to suffer to reconnect to Odinala. You don't need all those things that are being dictated for you, that are being told, that are being spread by pastors and religious leaders, parading themselves as Ezenwanya and Ezenwoke. You don't need those things. Let me tell you one thing you do not understand. Reconnecting to your own reality called Odinala is not supposed to cost you much. It's not supposed to cost you anything except your conscious and active involvement. That's the only thing it takes to reconnect to your own reality is called Odinala. What am I trying to say? Reconnecting to your nature, to your own reality is called Odinala. It's not supposed to cost you much. And maintenance of that reconnection is also not supposed to cost you humongous amount of money. So most of the things fronted online by ritualists in guises of reverend fathers and reverend sisters, pastors and daddy GOs, general overseers, Ezenwanya and Ezenwokens, those who see themselves as custodians of religion and Omenala. Those things they parade on social media that when you look at them, they are enough to buy 5 plots of land and build a story building on top of it. Those things they recommend there are not wonderfully necessary. You do not need them to reconnect to your own reality. Reconnecting to your own reality is not supposed to cost you that much. You don't need all those humongous amount of money to practice Odinala. So reconnect to your own reality in your own natural way. Natural things do not cost that much. You get them at the comfort or from the comfort of your homes, especially those that live in rural areas. You have abundance of nature to utilize, to employ, to reconnect to your own nature called Odinala. So you don't need this, you don't need that. You don't need to suffer so much in order to reconnect to your nature. You don't need to pay so much amount of money in order to reconnect to your nature. You don't need to employ any ritualist in the guise of reverend father or reverend sister, or in the guise of Ezenwanya or Ezenwoke, in the guise of pastor or daddy GO, to reconnect you to your own reality, to reconnect you to something that rightfully belongs to you. No, you don't need them. If they belong, that Odinala which you want to reconnect to belongs to you. So you reconnect to it using what you can afford, not what you must sell something to afford. Not what you have to sell or your property in order to fulfill. You don't need to sell anything to settle any spirit. You're not even settling any spirit, any external spirit to reconnect to your nature. No, you do that in Omenala, not in Odinala. You can settle this and settle that in Omenala, not in Odinala. And once you are in tune with your own Odinala, Omenala is just superficial. Omenala is not wonderfully necessary. It's when you do not understand your own reality called Odinala that you dream or that you want to reconnect or you want to fall victim of that Omenala or religion that people parade today. You don't need to settle this, you don't need to settle that. You don't need to kill this, you don't need to kill that. You don't need to sacrifice this, you don't need to sacrifice that. The only thing you need to sacrifice in order to achieve, in order to actualize your own Odinala, in order to reconnect to your own reality called Odinala, is yourself, is your time, is your devotion, is your activeness. That's the only thing you need to sacrifice. Your mentation, your mentals, constant ego for is what you need to reconnect to your Odinala, not to Omenala. Yes, Omenala, you may be practicing ego for and other things, but those things are borrowed from Odinala. So once you are in tune, once you are in line, once you are in consonant with your own reality called Odinala, Omenala is not wonderfully necessary again. Once you are covered by Odinala, any spirit operating within the realm of Omenala cannot do you anything because you are reality. Those things are spiritualities and religiosities, and I have told you time without number. I have told you several times that reality is the antecedent of spiritualities and religiosities. You get? Reality, when reality is at the helm of affair, religiosities and spiritualities subpedal, they bow. What am I trying to say? Spiritualities and religiosities are so inferior to realities. And who is that reality? You watching me right now. You listening to me right now. You looking at me right now. You are the reality. And those things you believe in, thinking that they will serve you, they are capable of serving you, are spiritualities and religiosities that have never saved anybody. Reality is what you employ, is what you employ, is what you activate within yourself to shine. And that reality, to shine through your reality, is called Odinala. It is the moment you realign with your reality is called Odinala. Your Agun, which is your willful creative powers, start to manifest. And through your Agun, you become a creator. That's how those spiritualities and religiosities were created. Spiritualities and religiosities were created by people like you. They created religiosities and spiritualities through their own realities. And using those religiosities and spiritualities, they dominated a lot of people. In order to control you, they need religiosities and they need imposition of religiosities and spiritualities on people. Those religiosities and spiritualities were created by realities like you. You are reality, and other people are also realities. So they created those religiosities and spiritualities through their own realities in order to control you. And most times, you are not permitted to make your own choice. You are not allowed to decide whether to accept or reject such religiosities and spiritualities. They were imposed on you. They were imposed on you through your parents. They were imposed on you through your parents or through societal influence, through your religious leaders. Most people, when they were child abused into this type of indoctrinations through their parents. Your parents did it. But you have to forgive your parents because they too were child abused into spiritualities and religiosities. So it was never their making. You were also, these religiosities and spiritualities were also imposed on you through societal influence, through your pastors, through your religious leaders, through your peer groups. Child abuse is another form of imposition. And when you grow up, you will think that you are originally a religious person. No, you are not originally a religious person or a spiritual person. You are originally a real person, a man or woman of reality, and not a man or woman of spirituality or religiosity. So you don't need much. You don't need to spend so much in order to realize, in order to realign with your nature called Odinala. Most of the things you use to reconnect, to realign with your nature called Odinala are very natural. Those things are things that you can get from the comfort of your homes. Those things are things that you can get from anywhere. You can get them irrespective of your location. You must not be here or there in order to get them. They are at the comfort of your homes. I will make videos explaining those things in details. Thank you and stay blessed by most ancient humans in the world. And from me, Uzomo Zumba. Bye bye. But stay tuned.